Okay, so today we are on week 9, day 3. We're still in our SQL module. It looks like today we are going to be working on breaking down large queries in SQL. So the past few days we've started learning some of the syntax, and then you started learning joins and grouping. So today we're going to throw everything together and work through a larger query that might seem a little daunting at first. But the good thing is there's some general steps we can follow when we're working on these. And I'm just following the README today, which is going to be, again, working with the CARS database. So if you all want to pull the CARS database up in your VS Code and write the script along with me, we can do that. But I'll just, let's see. We're going to look at, we're going to kind of run through a general guideline for writing your SQL query. When you get a very large query, the first thing you want to do is figure out what tables you need the information from. And we'll go into examples when we go through our example for the day. But so this is why it's nice to have our schema laid out like this in a picture, because it's an easy reference for us to say, well, I'm looking for a last name, so I see I'm going to need that from the app user table. So first thing when deconstructing your query, you're going to want to figure out what tables you need the information from. Make a note of those. Then you're going to look at how you can connect those tables. I think last time we learned joins as well. So for the majority of this course, we're going to be using inner joins. Those are pretty easy. And so you'll look at the tables you need, and then you start looking at how they're connected. And that's where we see the key, the primary key, and where it's connected to the foreign key. So we can see that user profile is connected by account ID, and the account ID in the user profile actually equals the account ID in app user as well. But we just start looking for those connections. And so we've got the tables we want for our query, and then we'll do our joins to link those tables together. And we just want to query everything from those tables to start off with. We'll just do like a select all, of course, limit, because we don't want to get hundreds of thousands to sometimes millions of returns in our query. So we will do our joins and select all, but limit to like 10 returns from that so that we don't have a whole bunch of data to go through. But that will give us an idea then of all the columns we could select and how we can start narrowing down our query. So the first step is getting your tables, linking them together, and then just grabbing all of the data. Once you've got all the data, then you start looking at filtering, grouping, aggregating, doing some of those calculations like the average and all that, and just whittle it down a little bit at a time. So that is the general guidelines of how you work through large queries. So let's see, it looks like in your README, they have shown you some links here where you can see a couple of diagramming tools for making these visual schemas. So you can look at these in your free time, and it'll also explain how to make these. But these are some tools you can use to design this visual representation if you're making your own schema from scratch. And we will do that in a future class. We'll dive a little bit more into these at that point. But go ahead and check those out in your spare time. Start messing with them now, because then you might be a little more familiar with them when they actually start using them. So in the README, it just kind of breaks down. Let's see, where's our, okay, here's the question. We're going to take this and put it over in our file. I thought it would be larger than this. Oh, we're not going to be able to read it. Yeah, we will. It's fine. Okay, so I want to get the total number of each make advertised in each city, ordered by city. So at first, a lot of things going on here. But first step is we need to figure out what tables are we going to need to use for this query. So I want to get the total number of each make advertised in each city and then ordered by city. So what are some of the keywords we can see here? Kind of highlighted a couple of them. What
There's a
fields are we going to
number.
need?
It wants a number of something, so we're going to need a count.
Sorry, what was that?
It wants a number of something, so we're going to need a count, like a count of the make.
Let's back up a bit. Let's just identify which tables we're going to use first.
The
Oh,
So,
city and the make, the car model and user profile.
okay, so we got the city and the make. Okay, and so make is from, you said car model here. So we need car model. I'm gonna write these down. And then city is from user profile. Long ways away, but we'll get to that. Okay, is that all we need in this table? Looks like it. We just need total number of each make in each advertised in each city. Advertised. Oh, this is what this whole thing is. These are advertisements. I didn't put two and two together. Okay, now I did. I'm following. All right, so now we've got our tables. We need car model and user profile, but as we saw, these are like on opposite ends of the spectrum here. But we can see they're connected through a whole bunch of connections. So we can traverse this. Let's start with user profile because that's easier. It's on the left to right reading. So now we want to connect these tables because right now I can grab city, but if I do, we don't have a connection to car model yet. So, and when I said we get these connections, we're always going to just grab all the data from that after we make these connections just to see what we're working with. So we can go ahead and start this query with a, do the right way. We're going to select everything. We're going to select everything from it. I didn't see, I think in the last class you touched on, again, like I said in the beginning, SQL doesn't care about white space, so I can enter down just to make this more visually pleasing. And it doesn't matter. It'll read it like it's one straight line. So I'm going to enter down because my select statement is going to be in one line. And now I'm going to select everything from, so we need a starting point. And I had said I'd prefer to start with a user profile just because it was the leftmost in this and I was going to read over, but anybody have any other opinions? Does it matter? Does it matter where I start? Do we think it matters for this, the order on which we join?
I would think so, because depending on how we join, whether it's going to the left or to the right, I mean, I think because it's linked, I mean, it's linked going to the right and left. It just depends on how we structure the query, right?
Yes, so we're going to
How
have to
we
take
map
into
that.
account how we want to join these. So I think last class you talked about the different joins. So if I was trying to do like a left or a right join where it depends where that table is located, like if it's the left table that you're joining to the right and you do a left join, then everything for the left is, I'd have to look at the specifics, but they're very specific about what fields columns get pulled over from which table based on those joins. But for our purposes, since we're just grabbing everything and we want everything that is related to this city user profile, we're just going to do an inner join. We want all matching entries. So when you do that inner join, it's going to grab all matching entries from both of these if we do an inner join. Is that a Is that confusing? I wonder if there's an easier way to put this. Does anybody else have a more clear way of describing an inner join? Look at
The Venn diagrams that they showed of the last class are helpful.
yeah, where it was everything in the middle of those two circles overlapping for the inner. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there was a better description. So it's just everything that is present in both tables. So I'm trying to think of an example of where an inner join would not work. I'll circle back to that later. I'll have to look into that. But just know when I do an inner join, it's going to return everything where there's matches in both tables for this.
Matches as in like if app user and user profile were the ones you were interjoining together, would it only return the account ID?
It would include everything from both of these columns as long as this matches.
So as long as it has one match, it'll link them up side by side as you see them in the diagram.
Yes, whereas if we did, oh, this is where, okay, joins get a little abstract for me. I am going to have to kind of look into the syntax of how these work. Because I can just visualize it with the Venn diagram. But okay, let me check something real quick. So okay, so we do an inner join because we want information from both of these. If we did just like a left join, it would give me everything from this table, even if there was no related match in app user. So I would get every user profile entry, regardless on if it had a connection to app user. So we don't want that because we want only matches because we're kind of trying to make this connection through. We don't need all the others that don't match. We don't care about that because obviously then if it didn't have a match to an app user, we don't need that information because that means they didn't make an advertisement and so on. So the right join is like that, but opposite. So if I did a right join between these two, it would take all app users, even if they didn't have a matching in the user profile. But it would only return matching user profiles. Are we following? Sort of. Okay, so left join, it would take all user profiles, but only matching app users. Matching meaning if this account ID links up to an account ID under app user. Okay, anybody need further explanation or just joins are kind of, like I said, it's a little abstract to kind of think about. It's a little easier once you start actually doing them. Like you can do, let's do, I wonder what would, okay, let's join these. So we'll do a couple of joins and see how they differ and what kind of data it returns. So that might make it a little more clear. So first we want to join user profile to app user. Okay, so to do this, we are going to select everything from user profile. I need a from. Okay, and good practice to always add an alias. So I think you've seen that before. When referring to these tables, we're going to add an alias or a different name we can refer back to instead of using the full user profile name. That way we can do referencing these columns underneath the table by the alias. So you'll see that later. And we're just going to call it UP for user profile. Okay, so we're going to select everything from user profile. And, oh no, I just want to call it UP. Don't autocorrect. Okay, now we want to join our app user. So the README is just doing a regular join, which I think automatically does an inner join. Wonder if it'll tell me. I'm sure it's an inner join. If somebody Googles that real quick while I'm doing this, or asks ChatGPT if a join is automatically referring to inner. But we're going to join our app user. We're going to change that join in a second here to do what we want to do. Default is inner. Thank you. Thank you, Megan. All right, so this is automatically an inner join on app user. And again, we're going to give it an alias so we can refer to it later. This will be AU for app user. Okay, so we want to select everything from user profile, and it's going to do an inner join with app user. Let's just look at this and see what this returns. We are going to limit, or oh, we have to tell it how it's connecting up. Okay, so you join them, and we can see in the schema that account ID under user profile is the same thing as account ID under app user. So we join them on. And we're going to start with the user profile account ID, see how we are referring to it by the alias instead of having to type out the full user profile. Account ID is that equals to the app user account ID. Okay, and then now we're going to limit, we'll do 5. Just because we're going to look at joins here real quick, get a little refresher. I got to set up everything. So we are going to run the image. Okay. We're going to Docker PS and then exec into it. Grab that container ID. If y'all just wanted to work straight in the terminal using that Postgres shell, you can do that as well, but I'm typing in the script file, so I'm going to do it. Let's see, we'll do Docker exec. Oh wait, I don't have to exec in there. Actually, I might needed to kick off that populating the database. So go ahead and do that anyways. I think that's part of the init SQL. What are we? It's the backwards queue. No, exit. Somebody told me this before and I did not remember. Okay, exit. So now we're going to run our script. Doggone it. Sometimes Docker. Okay, so we gotta stop this. I'm leading you down the wrong path. We just need to run it this way, not doing all that. Okay. So we're gonna Docker stop. That's right, we named it runner. Okay, nothing's running. Now I'm gonna do this. No, I'm gonna run it first. With the port mapping. Okay. And now we can finally run our SQL script. So hopefully this works. Perfect. Okay. So now we have a return from doing an inner join on user profile and app user. As we can see, it gives us account ID, which is the same between the two. We got profile ID as well, because that came from user profile. We have street name, street number, zip code, city, and then we have first name, last name, email, and password. Awesome. Oh, I don't know. So I don't know if they wrote this so that there wasn't any, like, if there was any entries that did not have this connection. So this might not be a good example. We'll see though. Because they may have done this relationship on all the entries. Well, let's go ahead and try it again. Yeah, okay. Let's see if I can orphan some of these. Okay, this is going to take too much time for me to do this. So we'll just you'll just have to trust me. So if I did a left join and some of these, so I could get a left join would give me everything from this up to account up to city. So it would give me all these columns. But then if some of these did not have an app user attached to them, we would get empty information in this side, and it would only return the ones that did match. So let's say Thaddeus and Dean didn't get this association, like they didn't have their account ID associated to the user profile, then Thaddeus and Dean, their information would not pop up here. It would just be null or empty. So that we don't want that with our problem because we want all the information. We don't want to have anything that maybe has like missing users or missing advertisements. So we just want everything to be returned. Okay. So we'll just trust the process there. Most of the time, like we've said, you're going to use the inner join because we want everything. And it's weird when you start only getting back some things and have to account for possibilities of some null entries. Okay, so we were starting our connections. We have from user profile to app user. Okay, so I want somebody to, let's see, about maybe I should pick on somebody that doesn't have her. How about Eunice? Can you tell me how I would join app user to advertisement now? If you are there. I'm gonna start doing this more and more. And note who's not attentive during a lecture. Okay, on to the next person. How about Daryl? You look like you're intently watching. So what's the next join for app user and advertisement?
I have my camera on, by the way.
Yes, I see you. I know.
Sorry. To connect app user and advertisement.
Yep. So we are working this process of joining from user profile all the way to car model. So we can see we did this join first. Now the next step is to join these two.
So then we could do join advertisement and then give it an alias. Call it add. And then on the next line, we do
I did.
on.
On.
On AU dot account ID equals what was it? Add dot seller account ID.
Y'all try not to cheat with the README because it does lay it out for us. But yes, that's correct. We will join advertisement. The README has it flipped here. I don't know if the order matters on our on. We're gonna see. So now I'm gonna come down and limit 5 for this. Don't forget the semicolon. And we're gonna run this and see what that does. Wait. Yes, that is what I wanted. Okay. It's just a lot of columns now because we're trying to get everything. So, oh no. Okay. Did I mess it up? This is where, what? I'm killing it. I can't do that. I don't, if anybody else knows what that is, it's not, I don't know, it's not easily escapable for me. Okay, we're gonna run. Anyways, we gotta look at this still. So this linked up, we had all the way through app user, through the email and password, and now we've also got advertisement ID, date, and then we can see it wraps around here, the car ID and the seller account ID, which should be the same as the app user account ID. Okay, so let's try flipping this now. We're gonna change it up because I want to see if this is different. Okay, so that, yes, our README has it like this. I'm gonna figure this out. How do we, oh, just Q gets out of that. Okay, awesome. So let's run this now again. And it's the same. So I don't know if it entirely matters the order you have this equals in, because I don't see any difference. Okay. All right, so we're going to keep going on because we're only halfway through. We're on advertisement. Let's join. I'm just going to blow through the rest of these because I think we've gotten the hang of it now. Now we're going to join car. And we're going to call this just C. And we're going to do that on. And we'll start with the advertisement one is the, looks like car ID is linked to car ID. Perfect. ID equals C car ID. Okay. We have one more. Now we're going from car to car model. So now we're going to join car model. Call that CM for car model. On. Okay, so we left off with car. So it looks like car model ID equals car model ID. Yay! Love when they match. Sometimes. Car model ID equals the new CM car model ID. Okay. And now we're going to see a whole bunch of stuff. We're just going to limit one, just like the README. We have so many columns that they don't even fit on here. So now we've got all of our tables. We got everything from these tables. Now we're going to start breaking it down and getting what we actually want. So first we want the total number. So when we hear like a total number, what jumps out to you right away? What are we going to do with this? I think Sean, you
Count.
said it immediately in the beginning of lecture. Yep. Count, Tisdale, right? You said that. Yep. So we're gonna put a count on here. Remember, we do our counts up here. So we're going to count all of these. Okay, so we're going to select a count. And now let's see what that gives us. Okay, save that. Okay, so it gave us the total count. But we want to break it down by city. It looks like we want to figure it out by city and make. So we want the total number of make in each city. So if we just want to break it down, you learned this last lecture and kind of, put together smaller groups. What do we have to do for this then? What's the syntax for?
Is it group by?
Yes, we're gonna do a group by because we have a count, that's everything, but we kind of want to break that count down by make and city. So we're going to group by, and we're going to group by both of these parameters. So let's do we don't have to limit anymore because we're doing a count. So we're going to do our group by. Okay, and I don't have to do it. That, so I want to group by make and city. So where does make come from? Looks like it comes from car model. So we have an alias. So we'll say car model CM. CM make. But then we also want to, this will be interesting how we group this. I also want to group by city as well. So we're going to throw that in there too, because we want these two factors in our groupings so that it comes from user profile, city. So let's see what this returns. I'm not sure if this will give us what we're looking for, but we'll see how that works. Okay, that doesn't look good. What is this doing here?
We need to select the make and city as well to see what the count is.
Yes, okay, so up here we need to select the count, but we also need to select the make and city. Correct, because now we're breaking down specific columns. So remember in our first lecture, we selected specific columns up here in our select statement when we just wanted to work with those. Because we are limiting also, we don't need to know anything else really right now. We don't need to know first name, last name, email, password. We don't care about that. Zip code, all that. So we don't care about that. We only want to grab those specific columns. So we'll start, let's see, we need this make. And city. Okay.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So we're able to use an alias before the declaration of it?
Yes, when it'll read this all in one line. This is, SQL is a one-line language, but we break it up by multi-line just for readability. So everything's kind of being declared at once, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's see what this gives us. We've selected our columns that now we're gonna group by those columns. Okay, so this gives us our count and our make and city. So we're getting there. And as we can see, we did our group by backwards from what they do in our README, but it still gave us the count and the make and the city. It didn't matter. I mean, if we flipped it, all it's going to do is change the location of those columns. That's cute. Oh, it did. Oh, probably because up here, that's where it's been a minute here. So this is where you'll set up where the columns are. And you could probably have these flipped around and it doesn't matter. All right, there we go. So we had count first, and then we had city and make. So awesome, we're getting there. So we getting the total number of each make advertised in each city. Okay, but now we need to order by city. So that's the very last thing we're going to do. Does anybody remember the syntax for that? It's a super
Or-
easy.
Order by space up dot city. UP dot city.
Okay. So this will give let's take that out because we're now doing an order by. So let's see how this returns. Okay, so it looks like it's ordering by city. Is that what we want? Yeah, that's it. Okay, that's all the question asked us. It looks like in the README, they also, no, order by 2. Where did they get a 2?
That's what I was gonna ask.
I'm assuming it means the column number. So let's play around with it. And automatically when you order by, the first thing it's going to do is in ascending. But you can also specify ascending as well or descending, depending on your use case. So let's try 1 and see if that orders by count. Because that's what, let's, yep. Okay, so it is the column. Interesting. I didn't know that. So we're ordering by 2, and they specified ascending. It's good practice, just in case. You never know what something's going to do if you don't explicitly tell it to order the way you want it to, or anything for that matter. All right, so this was actually not that bad of a query. We went ahead and did our figuring out what we needed, and then we figured out the tables that it came from. You do your joins, your connections and relationships, get everything. Just start off getting everything because it's easier to whittle down than to try to add things as you go. So get everything and then start looking at how you want to group or filter. We could have done a where in here. However, if you do a group by, do you remember how to do like a where statement after that? So if I were to say, let's add one. So we want to group by that, but we want to filter out, we want only oh gosh, I don't know how to filter. Let's do makes that start with, what would have a lot of different makes. We'll do C. Just I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of C's. So we did a group by. How can I do basically a where statement here to filter out some things? Can I just type where?
I think it's having.
Yes, correct. With group by, you need to do a having instead of a where. Just, I don't know why, you just do. That's how SQL is. So we're going to say having, okay, so we want the make, let's do CMake. Like, I can't remember how to do this without looking, but we're going to try. We're going to throw, we'll do a C and a wild card. Does this look right for y'all that have been doing it one day more than me this week? Let's see what happens. I'm always a big fan of, you know what, let's see what happens. Okay, I guess that's the only make with C. I wonder if there's anything else. But this is just an example of how you can add a filter. Toyota is it to, you can do your aggregating, your groupings, but then also have some wheres or some havings as well after that to even filter down even more.
Is there any difference in throwing in like the where above the group by instead of using having?
I'm sure that messes with
Like any downside, because I did it and it worked, but I don't know if like it always works or if there's certain reasons.
The only thing I would think of is maybe something to do with the aggregating because you're filtering out. Depends. Okay, so I guess it depends on use case because in this, that's pretty easy to filter out just any make that is like this. We can do that up here. But if we were maybe trying to do a filter based on this grouping, that might be where you have to do it afterwards. I'm trying to think of the case for that. That's something I'll look into and well, let's ask
Maybe if you
Chat.
wanted to like filter out the last couple that ended in C or something, where you would need to have it grouped by before you throw it in there, maybe.
Maybe. We're gonna ask Chat GPT because it's pretty good about telling us that kind of thing. I'm literally just asking any downside to doing a where before a group by instead of a having. And I think it'll give us a good enough idea. Maybe if I can get this screen up. So, okay. So it would be like more pertinent if we did like a sum. It looks like, and because it's saying here, we're gonna where cannot filter based on aggregate functions like count, sum, or average because that hasn't happened yet. It looks like it's doing just fine. Oh, but if we were, okay, so if we wanted to filter by count, we couldn't do a where. Let's try that. That's what that's saying. Let's go. So let's try to do that here. We're gonna do a where the count. Let's see how it lays that out. The count of it is greater than 3. Okay. So if I'm to believe what I was reading here without putting too much research into it, this should not work. Yeah. Because since this is all one line, the count hasn't completed. I mean, the count's still running at the same time as this where. So we can't do this on this function. It needs to finish. And I guess that's where the having does it. It lets it finish before applying this. Yeah, because the count is calculated after grouping. So where doesn't know what that grouping is. And I guess having does that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I just did the same thing that you did, but used having after group and it pulled all the counts that are greater than 3.
Yeah. So if we are filtering on something that's like static like this in one of the tables, then we can definitely use a where before grouping. But if you're trying to filter out based on some of these groupings, so maybe no, I don't have a good one for this. But the count makes sense, and the sum, like if you're trying to add values, if we did like mileage, we did an average mileage, we wouldn't be able to do a where, we'd have to do a halving. So that was a good question. I wasn't even super sure. Any other questions right now before I stop the recording? And then we can ask more off camera if we need. Good with this lecture today? Okay. I'll stop recording and we'll kind of look at what our challenges are. If I can grab the stop recording. Oh my gosh.